Hello, I'm the Grub Street Lodger, and you find me in the same room, and it's in the same state. I have done some stuff this month, but I've done an awful lot of waiting for other people in terms of house stuff. So this room, the room I live in, essentially, no different. I've actually painted the spare bed library. Here it is. It's mostly white with a flash of blue, but still no carpet and still no furniture. So we'll get there. Front room's been visited by damp proofers 3 times. Hopefully now I can actually decorate it and put carpet in and furniture. The troublesome back room. Newly plastered. Ready to start painting. But I'm not going to do a full sort of room by room tour as I do the books. And in fact, because I didn't get as much decorating and stuff done, I did get quite a lot of reading done. Here we go. Nice old pile here. Ugh, I can barely. Ow. Oh, ah. Good pile. So the first book I read was The Amazing Dr. Darwin by Charles Sheffield. This is a sort of collection of mystery stories, sort of almost supernatural mystery stories, starring Erasmus Darwin, Charles Darwin's granddad, as the detective. They're a bit like the Lillian de Torres Samuel Johnson Detector series, which I very much enjoyed. But also a bit sort of X-Files. So there's one with a Loch Ness Monster, there's one with a man who disappears, there's one with like a zombie and a vampire, and then one that actually, usually the solution in these are not supernatural, but one of them, it kind of almost is. It's sort of evolutionarily unlikely, I suppose. They're good fun. I really like the characterization of Erasmus Darwin. He's fat, he's slow, and he is smart, but he's not like Sherlock Holmes. He does adduce things like Sherlock Holmes, create ideas from little clues. But Sherlock Holmes is very dogmatic about the things he guesses, and then he's always right. Whereas Darwin comes up with a whole bunch of ideas, and then through the course of the story has to whittle them down. And he says, I've got to sieve my ideas. I've got, the problem's not I don't have any ideas, it's I have too much. And the information we're going to discover in this story is what's going to whittle it down to the most likely solution. And so there's this element of doubt, and it makes him a lot more likeable. He's accompanied by this man called Poll, who is based on a real person, but not a real person, who's like a treasure hunter in his Watson, and does some of the physical things, because Erasmus Darwin was incredibly fat. He did have a half moon carved into his dining table so that he could get closer to his food. And there's a lot about food in this, and it's good fun. It's probably better written than the Samuel Johnson Detector series, but I could see it almost as a film, but they'd have to work a little bit more on Erasmus, make him a little bit more sparky. But yeah, these are really good fun. These books, they're what the cover promises in many ways. I liked them a lot. Now the next thing I read was Haunting Beauty by Lorraine and Meg Ann. Now this cover makes it look kind of a bit YA-ish, a bit mystery sort of fantasy, but the normal cover is just a big buff dude, because it is spicy romantasy. I picked it up at a book swipe, and essentially there's this woman called Dahlia, and she is a fat slubby frumpy writer, and she writes ghost porn about, it's called reverse harem, which this is as well, and her book she's written is about a woman pursued by lots of sexy ghosts. But during the premiere of the film, she goes nuts and her brain kills a bunch of people at the premiere. She gets sent to Scotland, where there's this sort of retreat, mental hospital for supernatural beings with powers they can't control. And so she didn't even know she had them, the power to kill people with her mind and stuff. While she's there, she is pursued by Caspian Hook, who is Captain Hook, who is also a fairy. And it's like the fairies embody characters. So there's been other Captain Hooks, and he embodies Captain Hook. But he doesn't have a hook, and he doesn't look like Captain Hook. He's just a hot piratey guy in guy liner. Called Caspian, Captain Hook, Caspian Hook, bit naff. Then there's a guy called Thor, who's essentially Chris Hemsworth's Thor, who is mixed with the Beast from Disney's Beauty and the Beast, because when he's a berserker, but his
Berserk mode is described as looking a lot like the Beast in that, and he has a tattoo of a rose. And when all the when he every time he goes Beast mode, the petals drop, and when all the petals will drop, he'll be a beast forever. And he's hot, and he fancies her. And then there's a guy who's got a dragon inside him. I don't really understand that. Occasionally he sets fire to things, and he's basically hot, muscle Scottish man. And then there's a guy called Cain who has no memories, and I thought maybe biblical Cain. But he has blue fire, and I did look ahead, because this is a series of 4, and I did look ahead at some reviews or Goodreads things of the next series is. Turns out he's Hades. And what with the blue fire, Disney Hades, who I always think is more gay best friend energy than hot man. Anyway, all these hot men hotly fancy her. And any plot that could happen doesn't really. There's some stuff around the edges, but it's just hot men being hot. I don't find them hot because the thing that makes them attractive, one, they got all these muscles and stuff, but it's them being possessive that's supposed to be attractive, and I just don't find intense or earnest very sexy. I don't find earnestness sexy. For me, sexy is playful and I suppose like hard to get, sort of flitting. I don't know. That's what I find sexy. So these big men going, "You're mine," just doesn't do it for me on the sexy front. And then just some of the descriptions were just deeply unsexy. Like, I want to empty my length on you, and if you could, I wouldn't mind suffocating if it was your cunt I was suffocating in. What else was there? They all wear joggers, the least sexy kind of grey joggers, the least sexy kind of trouser, and there's not a lot in there apart from the sex. It's part of a series of 4. That's part of a series of 4 that's about the apocalypse. Didn't get any of that out of it. Just sex, and not very exciting sex. So good for them that enjoy it. Just wasn't my thing. Also not my thing. Howard Jacobson, the very model of a man. Now, I like a biblical retelling, and this is a biblical retelling of Cain. I think it's because I thought the guy in the other book was going to be Cain. It sort of linked in my head. And it's not a biblical retelling, it's a Jewish retelling. And actually, I really don't like it when Christians, say that Isaiah is pointing to Jesus and stuff like this, because he's not. Isaiah in context is not doing anything to do with Jesus. And so, yeah, that annoys me anyway. So I liked, a Jewish version of it. And the retelling of the Cain story is really fun. In it, God is this selfish, pathetic, micromanaging kind of thing, who's always giving them rules because he doesn't know what else to do and can't actually make a decent relationship with them. And so that's them. And he grows up in this isolation in the only family. And in fact, Cain is not just the first murderer. He's the first human with a belly button. He's the first born human. And he doesn't hate Abel, but he does kill Abel. And he's telling this story in Babel, Abel and Babel. He's telling this story in Babel, where he's pursued by a man who can see into the future and sees other biblical, I suppose, Talmudic renegades, and he wants to meet, the first murderer. But then they also meet someone from Eden, and there's this whole thing of, were they the first family, were they not? How is this whole city there if he's still there? All this kind of stuff. And then it climaxes with Cain being wrongfully accused of a murder, ironically. I like the story, and I like the point of view, and I like the depiction of God and angels. Angels are all scabby because the design is so terrible. They have terrible skin diseases and stuff. But it's a book that rather fancies itself, and it's trying to impress with its language. And there's a definite difference between a book that's a tour de force and a book that wishes it was. Okay. I also carried on Jewish. I've done a lot of Jewish stuff this month. It's called The King of the Schnorrers. It's by Israel. Israel Zangwill. So The King of the Schnorrers. Now, Schnorrer is a beggar. And it's a beggar who has more right to beg because the laws of Moses say you should give charity. So these beggars see themselves as holy because they give other people the means to give charity. And the king of the Schnorrers is this guy called Manasseh, and he's a wonderful character. It's set in late 18th century England, and Manasseh is a Sephardic Jew. He's descended from Portuguese and Spanish, and he's very regal, and he's very straightforward. He's like a wrecking ball, whatever he wants, and so he just pummels through this story, getting the things he wants. And then there's another beggar who manages to trick him a little, and this is a Ashkenazi Jew from Poland, and they have a lesser hierarchy in the Jews of London, and so he manages to con the king of the beggars. But the king of the beggars gets an awful lot out of it. It's a really fun book. It's very, very funny. It starts off with this man. He's a rich synagogue goer, and he's decided to make his charity fund by wrapping it all up in little parcels, different amounts. And it just so happens that Manasseh gets the one parcel with nothing in it, and he manages to leverage this, that he gets every other parcel a salmon, an invite to a Sabbath next week, a whole trunk of clothes, and I think some money as well, some extra money. So he just keeps going, and he just pummels through the story, and he's really fun. I really liked him, and that was good, that book. Okay, the next book I read, Moderate, Poor, Occasionally Good, short stories by Eley Williams. Now, Eley Williams is the author of the book The Liar's Dictionary, which I read with the Samuel Johnson book group. And she came, and I met her, and she was very cool, and I liked her so much. I bought her first collection of books, and I really love them. Though there is a very much sort of a pattern to an Eley Williams story. It happens in between main moments, and it's all about characters spiralling, usually in a linguistic or sort of sense way, sort of free associating ideas. And these books follow that as well. But in the first collection of books, that seemed to be a very natural outgrowing of her. In this collection, it seems to be a little bit more rote, a little bit more mechanical. But there's still some really good ones. There's this one about this woman, she can't get in work because the doors won't open for her, and then she sees someone waving at her who's sitting in a seafood restaurant. She's like, I don't know this woman, and seafood at 10 in the morning. She gets closer and closer, thinking this woman's waving at her, and it turns out the woman's got little prawn heads and is talking to them. I thought that was great. There's one about Saint Wilgefortis, who is my favourite saint, who was going to marry a barbarian king and woke up the day of her wedding with a full beard. Also known as Saint Uncumber. There's one about walruses, just sending someone a clip of walruses and it not being quite the clip that she thought it was going to be. Instead, the walruses aren't saying what she wants. They're still very good fun, these stories, but some of the sort of newness is off them for me. They felt like her doing her thing, and I've now read probably about 40 of her short stories, so her doing her thing is fun. I enjoy it. I like it. I'll get the next set, but it's not new now to me. Talking of new, I bought a newish book. Got a new book called The Ministry of Time by Kaliane Bradley. And the reason I got this was really because it's very similar to an idea for a novel I had. In this book, Britain's got time travel, and what they do is they get some people from time and they give them to people to live with, and these people are bridges. And so our main character is the bridge to Commander Gore from the the Franklin expedition. And this is because actually the writer was inspired after watching the TV series The Terror, which made me go, she's managed to write this whole book since then, because I've failed to write several books since then. I remember when I saw that. And so, there's that. My book was all about a time machine that just simply didn't really work. Like, go back and forward in time, but you couldn't do much. And the character, who was actually me, said, well, why don't we bring people back from the past? And so we bring back Samuel Johnson, and he lives with me. And so very similar ideas, both these books. I thought of mine 16 years ago, but she actually wrote hers and finished hers. So the problem I came to was, what do you do in the middle? Her solution is, one, have more time travel people, so then you can have the relationships between people of different times as well, which was good fun. I enjoyed that. Best bit of the book. And also to have a romance between time traveller and their person who looks after them. I couldn't do this with Samuel Johnson because I just don't think we tickle each other's funny bones. I don't think we got on with that. And so yeah, that's good. But in this book, it does come in rather towards the end, that romance, and it is a bit sudden, and it is a little bit like Haunted Beauty. The sort of the sex in it is very fanficky, and there's a slight fanficky element to the thing. And then she goes, "Oh no, I need to end it," and then there's all these revelations, and it ends. Now, I actually had a great ending for mine. In mine, as well as me getting Samuel Johnson, us getting like different people from history to get their ideas of how to move forward as a country, some people were going and kidnapping beautiful women from the past as courtesans, but they kidnap Helen of Troy, and so now all the Achaeans turn up, and they, like Achilles and that, and they're fighting the Metropolitan Police. Oh, and now King Arthur's there. Now there's a UFO, and it turns out it wasn't a time machine after all. This is my book, not that book. It was a machine that created in person things of collective consciousness. And so my longing to see Samuel Johnson was what allowed me to go back and get Samuel Johnson. And it's him that works this out, and he goes, right, well, simple. All of this craziness ends if we turn off the machine. But I'll end as well. And he turns off the machine. It's a big sacrifice. And you know how much Samuel Johnson didn't want to die. And not dry out in the house. Hers, more sort of time travel kind of shenanigans. Definitely the best elements of the book were just her trying to explain the modern world to someone from the past, and someone from the past trying to fit in. We both, I think, had the same problem. Though she bundled through it and came out with a book that's in all the bookshops. So good on her, she won. I really should write some of my actual book. It's very hard. I don't have a table. I just have a bed. I don't have a... I'll get there. Right, the last thing I read was called Peter and the Serpent. It's a screenplay. It's by a guy with the just phenomenally American name of a Ralph W. Osgood II. He still exists. He is a film, somebody worked in film but in the finance side, but started writing them. But he's also written a musical and novels and children's books and short stories. And they'll have a religious Christian angle. Peter and the Serpent is all about a boy called Peter who runs away from his apprenticeship and wants to go up with a highwayman called Roger, who he sees as his dad. But Roger gets arrested partly by accident from Peter's... Peter brings a bunch of people with him who also then arrest Roger. And Roger gets executed, and Peter comes to terms with it with the help of a genuine real-life historical figure, George Whitehead, who was a wayside preacher, a Methodist, a very, very successful preacher, very successful man. And as such, there's no genre for this. Is it an adventure story about Peter? Not really. There's a whole bunch of sermons at the end. Is it a Christian story? Well, maybe, but a lot of it's about this guy called Peter, and the man does try and shove a metal bar up a dog's arse, and someone else throws a cat's head, and I don't know. Is it for kids? Is it for adults? Is it funny? Is it serious? It's just not focused enough to be a very good script, unfortunately. And then the other thing is, there's not a lot of 18th century research. There's a little bit, but for example, everyone sounds like fake Shakespeare in it, so it wasn't very good. In fact, this month I gave 3 books 2 stars, which is not like me at all. But I gave Peter and the Serpent 3 stars. I gave Haunting Beauty, and I gave The Very Model of a Man. Yet I come to the end of this month and I think I had a fun month for reading. I had a good reading month this month, so I guess it doesn't matter so much the quality as much as just the experience. I don't know. I enjoyed reading these, even if I didn't think they were objectively all that good. Some of them, but one's really good. Probably the best of the month was King and the Schnorrers. So get out there and get schnoring.